Fáilte go dtí our Learn the Lore 21-day challenge with myself, Lora O'Brien. And this challenge is hosted over on www.irishpaganschool.com. So if you're only joining us for this video, please do go back and, well, go and enroll first if you haven't already, and go back and check out previous videos because we are kind of building on what we're learning video to video. Okay, so today we are looking at, well, it's actually the second part of looking at one of our texts, which is Oidhe Cloinne Tuireann, the fate or the violent death of the clan Tuireann, the sons of Tuireann. And yesterday we began looking at this text. We looked at the source manuscripts and we looked at the introductory preamble to this story. So we're going to jump in here and share the screen and have a look. So we're back to, just to remind you, we are back to Richard O'Duffy's translation and the version from the Society for the Preservation of the Irish Language. Okay, and we're looking at that on archive.org. So yesterday we saw Nuada, the king of the Tuireann, Nuada's arm being restored to him. So as we were talking about, this is set in the mythological cycle, even though it was written down much, much later in the 18 or 1900s. But there are references to these characters and to the story that go back to at least the 900s. So we know that this is a much, much older story that has survived pretty much intact from, looking at it. So there are some interesting things in this story, and I'm going to set a stopwatch. I am trying to be very respectful of your time and mine, actually, and keep these videos. I know that we're going a little bit longer with some of them, but I am trying to keep them under 10 minutes for the most part. And I know that this text we will have to break up into a couple of days videos. So we will get started. We're talking about Nuada, Arrogate Love, or regular love, as he is. He now has his arm restored. So Lu, though, is the leader and the king of the Tuireann currently in this tale, as far as I know. So let's just read it and see what we can see. Okay. Here is how this king was situated. The Fomorians had imposed during his time upon the Tuireann a very heavy rent tribute, that is to say, a tax upon the kneading trough, a tax upon the quern, and a tax upon the baking flags. So those would all be farm. Basically, the kneading trough would be for baking. A tax upon the quern. The quern is the round stone that was used to grind corn or grind hard stuff into flour, and a tax upon the baking flags. So this is basically a bread tax, but it's like coming in 3 different stages. So I don't know if this is like an example of the type of taxes that were being put on the Tuireann by the Fomorians. And I know that there are other stories which give examples of different taxes. Okay. So it goes on then. Also an ounce of gold for every nose of the Tuireann upon the hill of Uisneach, upon the west side of Tara. And they extorted that tribute yearly, and the man who refused it, his nose was cut off from his head. So that's an extreme kind of individual tax going on there as well. One day that a fair was assembled by the king of Éire upon the hill of Balor, which is now called Uisneach. It so happened that they were not long there when they saw an army and a goodly host coming towards them directly from the east. And in the vanguard there was one young man high in authority over all. And like to the setting sun was the radiance of his face and forehead, and they were unable to gaze upon his countenance on account of its splendour. And this is who it was: Lu Lawfada Lin Vemanach, and the fairy cavalcade from the land of promise. So that would be the She, the other world. And his own foster brothers, namely the clan Manannán. So Manannán MacLir had been fostering Lu Lawfada. That is to say, Scuth Gléigeal, the son of Manannán, and Ravach Sláthín, and Gléigeal Garabh, and Guithne Gorum Sulach, and Shinna Shinderig, and Donal Dunrua, and Ea Mac Ehel. And Lua Lawfather was thus accoutred. This is an interesting part, actually, where we saw yesterday, and I was talking yesterday about how, having come across retellings of parts of the stories, I just hadn't been aware of where the source of those stories were. So what kind of manuscript they appeared in, or what story they appeared in, or within what story cycle. So sometimes that's obvious and sometimes it's kind of hidden in, but this is kind of an example of that that's just about to come up here, is describing the gifts or the tools of Manannán. So Manannán has gifted Lu, his foster son, with his magical weaponry and armor and all the rest of it. So we're going to go through that. So this is an interesting, even though it's a story about other things, it's an interesting look at Manannán's magical objects as well. So Lua Lawfather was thus accoutred. He had the Ainmhar of Manannán under him, which was as swift as the bleak cold wind of spring, and sea and land were equal to her, and her rider was not killed off her back. So Ainmhar is one mane or single mane, who's the horse of Manannán. So Ainmhar has appeared in multiple different stories, but this is just some extra information about her. The armour of Manannán encased him, by which he could not be wounded under, over, nor through it, and the breastplate of Manannán upon the ridge of his breast and bosom, so that weapons could not take effect on it. The Cathfar around his head, protecting it, having in the back a very beautiful precious stone, and two of them in the front. And when the Cathfar was let off of him, the appearance of his face and forehead was as brilliant as the sun on a dry summer's day. So Cathfar is, it basically means battle top, literally. So I'm going to presume that that's a helmet. So Cath, C-A-T-H, is Old Irish for battle, and bar is the top of anything. So so it goes on, and Fragarach, really. There's an extra TH in there that I wouldn't have put in, or I'm not familiar with seeing in there. So the Fragarach, and that translates as the answerer. And that is the sword of Manannán over his left side. And one was never wounded with it that would come alive from it. And that sword never was unsheathed in the place of battle or combat, in which there would be but the strength of a woman left in the person who saw it or who was opposed to it. So in a kind of convoluted way, that's saying that Fragarach, the answerer, anybody who was wounded would never come out of it alive. And when the sword was unsheathed in battle or combat, anybody who saw it would have only the strength of a woman. Anybody who was opposed to it would have that. So then that troop came where the king of Éire was, and also the Tuatha Dé Danann, and they welcomed one another. And short was the time they were there. I'm actually going to leave this bit, and we will continue this in the next video. But I would like you to, for your point to ponder or your question today, to list out the magical items of Manannán mac Lir that are, you know, either think about them or write them out, and look at them kind of in the context of what kind of, like, actually, do you know what? No, because that's a fairly simple one. Let's bring it a little bit deeper. Let's think about fosterage. because some people might not be familiar with the term fosterage. So I actually would like you to go and do a little preliminary research on fosterage in Irish tradition. And Lou ended up in fosterage with Manannán, but actually what that means or what that meant in Gaelic society. Okay, so that's going to be your point to ponder for today, which, as you can see, I'm kind of making up as we go along, but that's okay. You know, I'm inspired by the text that I'm reading as well. Okay, so we will pick this up tomorrow. So slán go fóill, and don't forget, as I said, to go back and check out the other videos if you're only joining us, and pop over to my YouTube, like, subscribe, join the mailing list, do all those good things, and we will see you in the next video. Slán go fóill.